Good morning, good day, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Yusuf Amanullah, and welcome to The Third Culture. To quote recording artist Nelly, it's getting hot in here, so we have to take action before we create irreversible damage to the world and face the third mass extinction. Oh, those weren't the lyrics. In any case, climate change is a genuine problem, not just because it will have repercussions for each and every one of us, but also because if I have to see another angry photo of Greta Thunberg, I'm gonna lose my shit. Having said that, I do love the memes. Though I mentioned in our previous episode that I believe climate change is a hoax created by Elon Musk to sell more of his roided up Lego cars, I decided to pull my head out from the sand and actually read some facts. And I must say, I am just as shocked as you are. I can actually read. And what I did read was rather concerning. Now, we've always had carbon dioxide in our environment. It's the lifeblood of vegetation. It's what we excrete. Carbon is an essential element to our lives. But the level of carbon dioxide we currently have in our atmosphere is extremely worrying. This shows the concentration of carbon dioxide found in air bubbles trapped in ice cores, which is a way for us to basically measure our air quality over decades and sometimes centuries. And in just 70 years, the concentration of carbon dioxide in these air bubbles has increased exponentially. For the last 800,000 years, we have never exceeded a carbon dioxide concentration of 300 parts per million. However, in less than 100 years, we have almost reached 420 parts per million. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are 420 blazing our own world. This must be some kind of stoner's sick joke. Of course, when you hear that the difference is a mere 120 parts per million, or when you hear that the world has warmed up on average by 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius, it doesn't sound too bad or catastrophic. If anything, it actually sounds quite pleasant. I mean, have you been to the UK? No wonder these guys colonized half of the world. They just wanted to get away from the shitty weather. A couple of degrees would be more than welcome. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have a little situation over here called the butterfly effect. What initially sounds like a small change, like the flutter of a butterfly's wings on water, leads to big implications, like the ripple created growing bigger and bigger. Sorry, that was way too philosophical for the show. But it's true. Just a 25 centimeter a year increase in the sea levels means Indonesia has decided to move its capital city from Jakarta to elsewhere, as the city, home to more than 10 million people, is slowly sinking. And these small rises in temperature mean that diseases like dengue fever could spread across the US, as mosquitoes can now breed in places they never could before. An increase of global temperature of just 2 degrees Celsius would wipe out 5% of our species, as it would wreak havoc on hibernating mammals, birds, and flowering plants. The thing is that we're not far away from that. And so now people have actually woken up to these issues. Of course, there was the UN Paris Agreement in 2015, which, though a lot of it was for show, was really the first time we saw climate change not being any one country's issue, but rather a global one. Targets were set, with the aim to keep global temperature increases at the end of the century well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. We do love you, United Nations, but as is with much of what you do, this was very much like a New Year's resolution. People care about it for the first few weeks, until they slip back into their old ways because their goals are simply too broad and not really actionable. However, what's refreshing to see is that the general public is now holding governments to account on the issue. For example, Extinction Rebellion has become a lot more than just a half-term holiday along Waterloo Bridge it was at the beginning. No, instead, the nonviolent protest to fight against our current climate crisis spread to the likes of Australia, Germany, Belgium, and the US. People are now pushing for legislation to change to help save our planet, and also to hold big oil and energy corporations accountable for their actions. Even our future is working for our future, with Greta's school strike becoming a global movement from kids around the world. Perhaps the one legit excuse to bunk off school. And indeed, we are seeing some changes. For example, the UK has set a target of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. New Zealand has passed similar legislation, as well as pledging to plant 1 billion trees by 2028, and also banning new permits for offshore oil and gas exploration. Even through the power of social media, we've seen people rally together to try and save our planet. In fact, a few weeks ago, YouTube's Mr. Beast and the Arbor Day Foundation's Team Trees project reached its goal of raising $20 million, all of which will be used to plant 20 million trees. So we are seeing steps in the right direction. After so many years of people almost saying, "This isn't my problem," others are now standing up for the future of our world. And then, of course, you have certain people spoiling the party. I'm not gonna name any names here. Yes, for a while, Mr. Donald Trump has been quite the skeptic when it comes to climate change. I mean, not really a surprise, is it? And as usual, his arguments have been terrifically sound.
I never understood wind, and I know windmills very much.
In his bid to undo the little efforts we have made to actually combat climate change, Donaldinho has been relaxing regulations on energy companies, auctioning off millions of acres of land for new drilling leases, replaced the clean power plan developed by the Obama administration, began proceedings to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, and so much more. Bit by bit, Trump has been reversing plans set in place by his predecessor, and in 2018, we saw an uptick in US carbon emissions after 3 years of slow declines. And when he's not busy f***ing up the world, he likes to spend time picking fights with teenagers on Twitter. Chill, Greta. Just chill. She will be able to chill once we get our global temperatures in check, Mr. Trump. As we mentioned last week, evidence doesn't mean anything. Donald Trump, as well as many others in positions of power, are oblivious to the fact that we as people are actually damaging our own world. And the more we have these political power plays between the likes of US and China, the less likely we'll be able to fix our world. So you know what? Enough's enough. It's time to take matters into our own hands, rally up the troops, and make the change that we want to see. Be gone with the empty promises. To hell with the people who don't believe in climate change. I'm going to create my own new party. We are the Brexiteers. Get it? Brexiteer, tree, Brexiteers. And our slogan, don't just vote leave, vote leaves. Yes, we will be the right-wing environmentalist nationalist party that you never knew existed, nor did you particularly hope for. Now, considering that we have an election every 20 minutes or so nowadays, I think it's time for me to share with you our manifesto, which covers 3 main areas. Our first policy, a hard Brexit. Quite simply put, no deal, no nonsense, no problem. We want to leave and just be done with all the shenanigans. And while we're at it, we propose no diplomatic or trade ties with any other nation state. Why so drastic, you may ask? It's quite simple, really. Trade deals and single markets mean free movement. Free movement means more traveling of goods and people. And more traveling means sipping out of freakishly tiny drink bottles on board massive, petrol-guzzling, tree-killing, ozone-destroying aluminium tubes. We're not saying no migration because we're racist. We're saying no migration for a better future. Our second policy is no taxes, and that is because we will have no money. Yes, we will ban the printing of any paper money, as well as collect any paper notes currently in circulation to be recycled to make paper straws. We have to save the turtles! Instead, we will move to cryptocurrencies to truly embrace the future of financial systems. The Bank of England, currently tasked with printing paper money, will now become a Bitcoin mining warehouse. Savings accounts will now only accept Bitcoin, and in terms of interest rates, we will be setting these at an absolute maximum of negative 100%. This will be done to stimulate consumption and borrowing in our economy. That's right, folks. For every Bitcoin that you save today, you will get exactly nothing a year later. We know, it's truly unbelievable. Now, of course, all of our numbers check out. After all, with Diane Abbott as our candidate for Chancellor of the Exchequer, you can rest assured that you will be in safe and capable hands. And our third crucial policy that we feel is necessary now more than ever, environmental efficiency cuts in the NHS. Since we've gotten rid of money, we don't need to worry about cost savings anymore. No, instead, efficiency cuts in the NHS will now refer to energy and electricity. We want a carbon-neutral healthcare system. And for this, we're making some changes. Firstly, only 3 major surgeries a day will be allowed per hospital. We don't need all those machines running for hours on end. While you're saving one human life, you're killing a bunch of animals. And I don't know about you, but a panda has never been a dick to me. Secondly, no more ambulances. What an energy inefficient system. A whole van for just one person. Instead, we will have ambulance pooling, which will carry up to 10 patients. Each car will have an energy efficient route. So if you're not on that route, then better luck next time. Or next life, more like. And we are proud that we are partnering with Uber for their carpooling services with this new scheme. Oh, for fuck. For this last change, we know it might not be the most popular, but we do feel that this is the most necessary. Food production, consumption, and wastage are some of the most carbon emitting processes. And so, in order to cut the sheer wastage, we have to change each of these processes. Now, I must say, I got some inspiration from The Lion King and Soylent Green when coming up with this one. And that is to create the Circle of Life, our new not so vegan meal substitute made of the recently past. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in order to save humanity, we have to eat humanity. And that way we can contain the carbon within us without having to breed more cows or worry about overgrazing or grow crops that inadvertently damage our world. I mean, that Game Changers documentary on Netflix said we don't need beef or chicken to be healthy, but it never said anything about human flesh. We're the real game changers out here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, eat your heart out. Quite literally. The Circle of Life will be served as free school meals across the country with no restrictions for all to enjoy. And the meals will come in 3 distinct flavors: natural, mature, and strawberry and banana. Wonder how they do that. Sorry, this just in. We've unfortunately been denied by the FDA. Funny how they'll approve chlorine-soaked chicken, but this gets rejected. I think everyone knows by now that whatever we say is nothing more than a joke. I mean, if not, then I've really f***ed my career, haven't I? Nevertheless, the current climate crisis that we face is seriously worrying. We are on the brink, and if we don't do something now, we will soon face irreversible damage. And it's fantastic to see that some countries are actually working towards fixing the problem and towards net zero carbon emissions. But when we have the 3 largest emitters, China, India, and the US, pretty much doing nothing and in fact countering our good efforts, then how much can really be done? We have to stop thinking about short-term economic gains because we've known for far too long that with an initial investment into renewable energy resources, we will have so many benefits in the long run. Our whole socio-economic and political landscape will change. The challenges we currently face won't matter when we're struggling to even survive. We're taking underwater mortgages a little bit too literally at this point. It's imperative that we work together and for each of us to do our bit. It's sad to think that we have to clean up the mess that was created by people who had no care for the world, but it's in fact this negligence that we have to learn from and make sure that the systems and changes we put in place now have a positive impact for future generations. We shouldn't have a situation where bringing another life into this world becomes so taxing for the environment that life becomes less of a blessing and more of a curse. At the Third Culture, we seriously hope that we can do our part in this mission and make a better tomorrow starting today. And in the future, as we build our content and reach out to people in the environmental space, we hope we inspire people to make the change that they want to see in the world with our library of public action, as well as the other content that we share. So if you want to know more about how to do better for the world, then please like, share, and subscribe, and check out our other content, links in the description below. And if you don't want to make the world a better place, then I seriously suggest that you still read our content to change your mind. Join us next week for another episode of The Third Culture. In the meantime, take care, love yourself, and all of those around you. Goodbye.